Hey, welcome everybody to the Amputate Fear Amplify Life podcast, where transformation always takes center stage. I'm your host, John Register, a two-time Olympic trials qualifier, combat Army veteran, amputee, Paralympic silver medalist, and certified speaking professional. Join me as we dive deep into the lives of senior suite leaders and inspirational influencers who turned adversities into advantages and obstacles into opportunities. We uncover the raw, real stories behind the corporate facade. We're talking about challenges, pitfalls, and most importantly, the victorious turnarounds that define true leadership. Prepare to be inspired, to act. And these leaders don't just overcome obstacles, they transform them into triumphs. Let's amputate fear and amplify life right here, right now. To follow the show, just subscribe to it. And if you do not have time to listen now, just download it. And if you want to find all the episodes and be notified when we are playing new episodes, just click the notification bell. You know what to do. This podcast is brought to you by Inspired Communications International, where they show business leaders how to hurdle adversity, amputate fear, and embrace a new normal mindset to win the medals that are in their life. Let's get into this because I'm so excited for our guest. She is an international keynote speaker, an expert in modern emotional intelligence. Oh, got to talk about that. Trusted by top organizations worldwide, she empowers leaders and professionals to make impactful decisions that drive growth and success. With her power of choice framework, helps individuals harness their visual, behavioral, verbal, and nonverbal, digital, and social intelligence. Her thought-provoking presentations take audiences on a captivating journey, unlocking their potential for professional and organizational excellence. As the author of The Image of Leadership and Discover Your Fair Advantage, she dives into the customer experience, making every interaction count. I am excited because I know you're going to love this conversation. I am so honored to welcome the indelible, delightful, and epitome of service, Sylvie di Guisto. Welcome, Sylvie.
Oh, hi, John. I'm so excited to be with you. How lucky I am. I met you twice now within 10 days. But I know the other 355 days I probably will not catch you because you're constantly traveling. But hopefully we see each other somewhere on an airport, crossing each other or behind the stage.
Absolutely, because you're always traveling too. And I am so delighted to get to know you more. Like you said, and you are just a wonderful human. And so I think that's why I'm so attracted to you because, wow, and we might get into some of that a little bit later. I have a question for you. And I know that with the accent that she is so wonderful. And I also was stationed in Germany, if you can figure out that accent. So ich was ein Soldat in Bitburg Flugplatz. That's my go-to line. I was a soldier in the United States Army in Bitburg, Germany. And so let's get into this first question, Sylvie. I begin this podcast with a very simple question. Since this podcast is primarily geared at those who are in the supply chain for meetings and events, the leadership, I invite you to write a book with me. This book is entitled The Professional Speaker's Anarchist Guide to Destroying Meetings and Events. What might your best chapter title be?
To destroy a meeting or
to destroy the meeting. Take it out. It's never gonna.
Wow. So my probably first chapter in this book would be called Mother. To just give you one unique perspective, title that hopefully would make everybody curious. Here's the background story. I don't have a TV at home. I really don't watch TV. I get all the news and information from the internet. I'm very cautious of what I let into my house in terms of information and vibes and drama. And so if I watch a movie, it's really a conscious decision. And I'm not sure what happened, but a few months ago, I watched a movie called Mother. I should probably not say this in public, but I started the movie, and after, honestly, 2-3 minutes, I knew, it's gonna be bad. But have you ever been in that situation that even if you knew it, then you watched a little bit longer and then you were in 10 minutes and you know, oh my God, it's going to be really bad. And after 20 minutes, you certainly know that it's going to be bad. And after 40 minutes, you think, well, now I made it this far, so let's just finish it, right? After 90 minutes or so, I was so angry at myself because it was such a bad movie. And I thought to myself, I just wasted 90 minutes of my life that I will never get back. You know, I will never get those 90 minutes back. And I realized something else as a professional speaker, that I am doing the same to my audiences. So every time now I walk on stage, you know, and I do my pep talk in my head, I bet you do the same. I remind myself of this movie and remind myself of the responsibility that we all have. I, for example, as a keynote speaker, your audience in another role involved in events, but I remind myself that I'm going to steal time from those audiences. Time that they will never get back. And now take the time of an average keynote of 40 minutes, and there are, let's say, 1,000 people in the audience. I steal 1,000 times 40 minutes from this planet Earth, and I better make it worth it. I better make it worth it. So my first chapter would be called Mother, after that movie that I'm never going to watch again. I'm never going to let them steal my time. You might have a different opinion about that movie. But I think as a speaker, we have the responsibility to serve the audience, to make their time worthwhile, because others, we are thieves of time. And so how I would destroy a meeting is if I would be a thief of time.
Wow, that is powerful. I have not seen the movie. I don't watch a lot of movies. Well, I do a lot. I like watching movies, but I don't do a lot of television watching. That's for sure. But that is being a thief of time. Are we prepared in such a way that we are adding value to the time that we are honored to be on that platform, that we're privileged to be on that platform in front of them for 45 an hour, 75 minutes? And some people have to be there. They're voluntold to be there. And some people are showing up because they're investing in that time. So how much am I preparing? What do you do to prepare in such a way that ensures, because you have a presentation that you do that really engages the audience in such a way and takes them on an experience. So how do you prepare for that? And then talk to us a little bit about that experience that you are providing for folks on stage.
Well, first of all, one of my guiding principles is always, speaking is never about the speaker. It is never about the speaker. It is about making the audience the star of the show. And so I offer my keynotes in two different formats. One format, we call it the interactive keynote, where, yes, I'm on a stage, I share insights about neuroscience, about the scientific background of decision-making, emotional intelligence. I give them practical frameworks to bring what they learn instantly into life. But I also take them out of their comfort zone. You know, the comfort zone is a very dangerous place. It is very stagnant and very don't grow. So if you ever saw one of my videos, you might see people walking around with labels on their back. And during that very interactive exercise, I let them physically experience how it is to get labeled in this world, instantly judged by others, because they are putting their first thoughts about each other on their backs. And they are not allowed to take these labels off until the end of the keynote, when I actually reveal to them that I know what they're going to find on their backs based on the framework that I use for my work. And there are always two beautiful moments. First, when the audience is the star, when they have this Yes, but what are we going to do? That moment of fear, we're going to walk around and judge each other? And then the second moment, when I hardly can get them back into their chairs because they love it so much, they have so much fun doing this. And then maybe third at the very end, when they realize, oh wow, what she just shared on stage is not just theory, she just has proven to us that it happens every single day because we all just did it as a collective. So I make them the star of the show. Now,
I
I
love
also believe that the times of regular keynotes are gone, and the future of speaking looks quite differently. We have all seen traditional keynotes, plenty of them and many of them. Some were great, some were not so great. So 4 years ago, I went on to a very adventurous journey and kind of not invented, but brought together some technologies that are out there and combined them and created something that is called the immersive experience. So when you look behind me, if there is video included,
Yes.
otherwise we're going to post it somewhere in the show notes. Then you see me standing in a holographic 3D brain. So rather than using slides, rather than using handouts, I actually immerse the audience into my world. Instead of just showing a brain and what parts are engaged, I use a combination of technologies that are easy for meeting planners to create because I have all the material necessary, where I create a 3D holographic environment around me, for example, a brain, and I walk in and let the audience experience how it is when we are inside a human brain and what parts, for example, get engaged.
You know, that is such forward thinking on how to bring an immersive experience on both
Mhm.
levels, because I'm always thinking about, you know, how do I engage the audience even more so? And I'm always interested to see how others that are really leading in the field are doing it. So having, you know, kind of the traditional, you know, I love it, you know, putting a label on people's backs. You know, I've done things like that before when I'm talking about disability, for example, and the labels we have around those things, but
Mhm.
also the interaction that people do want that they just don't think they need. So amputating, going off the theme of the podcast, amputating our fear of our labels and the fear of people judging us and the fear of people thinking something different, which is really inside of our own
Yeah.
brain.
Mhm.
So your
Mhm.
emotional getting into your 3D space lets people see what's actually happening.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then, you know, having the release on the other side to see, oh my gosh, I actually do this, or I'm showing up in this way, which then begins to change the behavior possibly for that individual. So I call this kind of the what to wow to now, right? So what's going on here? What do I want to do? What's happening? To wow, oh, this is amazing. This is incredible. To now, what's my responsibility to the action? And I think that's what we can do as professional speakers. You're going to say something?
Mhm. You know, you and I know how hard keynote speakers work before an event, right? To prepare and behind the scenes for their business. The event for us, let's just be honest, is not hard work. It's our favorite part. Once we are out on stage, we all shine and it's fun. Or I hope that it is for
It
all
should be.
keynote speakers. Oh, think of the many bureau owners we have the pleasure to work with, the meeting planners who make all the nitty gritty happen, the professionals involved into events. Our hard work usually happens before the event. At the event itself, I always feel the hardest work is for the audience members. When did you the last time sit 8 hours, the entire day, in a ballroom and tried to be focused and listen to the insights and think about how you can transfer them into your daily work? The audience members have actually their hardest job at the conference. And I just want to honor this to give them tools and methods to make that time as valuable, but also as easy and fun to them.
You know, I think that's a great point. It's something that we often don't think about. We say we're serving the audience, but are we really sitting in their shoes or in their seats for that 8 hour, sometimes
Yeah.
48 hour, 72 hour time period where they are getting more and more information. How do we make that time easier for them as well? How did you get into this? You know, you're from, I think you're born in France. You're a German speaker primarily, first language, and then you have at least three other languages, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
I think of you as a lady, Christoph Waltz. He's my
Oh,
favorite actor.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you hear a Spanish grandmother, an Italian grandfather, a French father, and an Austrian mother.
That's so.
But my lifelong dream since I was a child was always to live in the United States, and that came true 12 years ago. And how did I get into this? Well, actually, I was on the other side. I was on the side of your listeners for nearly 20 years. I was always in human resources training and development. And the last 10 years of my corporate career, I built up a management and leadership academy for the biggest retail and tourism company in Europe. So I was the one who hired speakers for the events. I was the one who was the meeting planner, the corporate meeting planner behind the doors, behind the scenes. And so today I'm incredibly grateful to have both of those perspectives. The one which I always call the buyer perspective, and remind myself of what I have been looking back then when I hired speakers for my events. And obviously today, the speaker side.
You know, you said some things earlier in the podcast that resonated with me, and thank you for sharing that. We all have a journey of how we come to this and how we offer our expertise. And I can see now you coming from that area of expertise and doing this and building up a company and portfolio and how you can now serve the client better because you have a different lens. The question I have is as we look at the shifting markets that are going on, we see Uber come into the market, you know, maybe 12, 15 years ago. We see Airbnb, which we just stayed at, you know, a few weeks ago, not doing this podcast. How do we shift the marketplace in that type? How do we Uber-esque or Airbnb the event planning marketplace, maybe as speakers or maybe as event planners or maybe as, you know, folks like Conference Direct or some of the big agencies that are out there, speaker bureaus? How do we challenge ourselves to do what you said and serve that end client even better?
Mm-hmm. You know, I truly believe that our market walks away from traditional events into more an event that is an entire experience for the audience. Right? When I think back, when I was in that space 20 years ago, we approached it very traditional back then. Already there was a 2-day event, there was an agenda. First there was a keynote, then there were breakout sessions, then there is lunch, then there is breakout sessions. So a very structured kind of flow that we all followed. And I was lucky enough that already 20 years ago, I reported to a CEO who believed into my concept, which back then I called experiential learning. So instead of, I give you some examples, instead of just hiring a speaker who talks about communication skills, because back then in that organization, we just went global. Out of a sudden, we had offices in Asia and we had offices in the UK with a German-based company, right? We found some lacks in communication. We didn't have Zoom meetings back then. It was all just via telephone. And so they asked me to create a program about communication. So instead of just hiring a communication speaker, I rented a museum in Germany that is built by blind people, where you walk into the darkness and where the blind people teach you communication skills. Because if your sight is gone, you need to use your words and your communication more efficiently than if your site is still here, right? So it was not just a training, it was an experience for all of us, and audience members loved that. Instead of hiring just a keynote speaker about decision making, I rented the Porsche racetrack and put them with professional race drivers into Porsche race cars, and they got their coaching and their training in the cars with, I don't know, 200 kilometers per hour on the racetrack. Instead of just hiring a leadership speaker, we found a ranch with horses where you could learn to lead better with those beautiful animals. So those are just a few examples. Even 20 years ago, I was the total unicorn offering something like that. I was also happy to have a CEO who believed in me and gave me not just the power, but also the resources, the budget to make those things happen. But I do believe that truly audience members learn through emotions better than when we give them just the facts and the figures, because for the facts and figures, they don't need us. They don't need to come to a conference. They find everything on the internet. Our biggest competitor in the event space are not other events. Our biggest competitor in the event space is YouTube, is TikTok, is Wikipedia, is Google. Everything that we know is already out there somewhere. So our role is just to package it in a way that they better digest it and actually bring it to life. Because otherwise, let's just be honest, they could also read a book.
Of course. Yeah. I have been doing experiential learning and I didn't know it was called that, for a very long time. We do it with Paralympic sport. So like you said, having one of the disciplines or the categories of Paralympic sport is the blind category or visually impaired. And so taking a group over and learning how to play goal ball, for example, teaches a lot of skills. And I don't necessarily offer what it is that they're going to learn from it, because I believe that the learning comes when we have a dialogue and you tell me what you learned that's going to help your job. Exactly. So that pulls it from them. Or we do sitting volleyball. It's another one that we will do, which is another great experience. And then I was with a company called Experience to Lead. They've changed their name now, and they do all kind of experiences from landing on the Hudson River. They have one their people landed on the Hudson with Captain Sully. They do other things as well. So I think that is fantastic. And so doing it 20 years from now, I think you're exactly right. We need to offer experiences, no matter, somewhere in that presentation, you have to offer the experience, because we are competing with YouTube and what people are seeing and holding their attention spans. You've written some books, and those books are helping many people. Number one, tell us about the books and what each one of them does to serve your audience.
Well, my first book was The Image of Leadership. The Image of Leadership very much is focused on my corporate career, the 20 years that I spent in human resources, when I also was involved when people got hired and people got fired and everything in between. What always frustrated me is during job interviews, people came in for very responsible positions. They said all the right words. They behaved exactly the right way. They even looked the way we wanted them to look. And then years later, we had to fire them because of a total lack of performance. So I got obsessed with the idea, why do we perceive some people the way we perceive them as leaders? And why do we, on the other hand, not identify some young, ambitious people in our own organization who possibly would have done that job way better? And so the Image of Leadership is very much focused on perception, on first and lasting impressions, and very much focused on your image, meaning your visual image. What are the expectations when you walk into a room that somebody perceives you instantly as a leader? My second book, Discover Your Fair Advantage, you see it back here, or here I always call it my work Bible. It's a 461-page book, a combination out of the theories that I offer you in the workbook, where I take you on a very intense, in-depth journey of self-discovery. You know, very often I ask leaders, what is unique about you? Tell me one thing that is unique about you. Why should I work with you and nobody else? And I could raise the same question to a meeting professional or to a bureau partner or to anyone involved in our industry. And usually the answers are very generic. Because if you say, what is unique about me is that I put all my efforts and time into serving my audience members, my clients in this and that way, or pricing, or whatever you bring in, you instantly get into a comparison trap. Because if I walk over to your competitor, trust me, they're going to say exactly the same. So I take you on an interactive or on a journey here of self-exploration where you can find out your 17 unique selling points, your superpowers, because your uniqueness is not just based on one thing, it's a combination of different factors, and all of them are captured in this book. And my next book is called Make Me Feel Important. Because in the end, if we are honest as a customer, and this customer could be a potential lead for a bureau owner, this customer could be a corporate client for a meeting professional, this customer could be an audience member for a speaker, what they all have in common, all they want is that we make them feel important, that we value them and their time. And so the Make Me Feel Important is based on my framework. How can you use your appearance, your behavior, your communication, your digital footprint, and your environment, if you haven't noticed, your A, B, C, D, E, to make others feel important, but also to make yourself feel important. Because if you don't feel important about yourself, it is very difficult to project that message on others. If you don't take care of yourself first, people don't think that you have the capability to take care of them as well.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So many directions I want to go. I need to purchase the book, all of them, because everyone speaks to me. Every one of those titles speak to me, and what you put into those for various different reasons. If you are listening, please go out there and support Sylvie on her venture, and I'm sure that they're going to support you as well and what you might be after. Sylvie, who is a person that you would say, after you're hearing this podcast and you answer the questions, you say, man, you know who'd be great for that podcast? Would be this person, and then why they would be. What question would you want them to answer on the podcast? Who would you think would be a great person?
Yes.
And
the next great guest.
yeah.
I am nominating the one and only and the wonderful and the smart and the always up to date and the edgy and forward thinking Sarah Michelle.
Sarah Michelle, absolutely. Have her on the list for sure. She is always forward thinking.
Yes. Chainsaw Velvet Chainsaw Consulting. She is always on top of industry events. She is in there in the nitty-gritty of events and knows so many perspectives. I always treasure her perspective because I say she has a 360-degree view. Right? She hosts events, she MCs events, she runs events, she speaks at events. So she sells events to clients, she consults organizations for events. And so I always truly treasure her insight. And I cannot wait to hear what Sarah Michelle's first chapter of that book is.
Me either. I'm definitely gonna get her on the show. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your insights. I mean, wow, I've taken up so many notes. Mother, the title for that, and we can't give time back, so we have to be very careful and cautious and engaged to add value to our clients. I think what you said, the hardest working person at the event is the audience member. That was a brilliant insight as well. And the experiences that we can bring through experiential learning, I thought was just fantastic. So thank you for being on. I'll wrap up the podcast right now. How do people find you before I do that? How do people get a hold of you?
Well, they just type in my rather complicated name, but even if you have some typos, Sylvie di Guisto, and then my website will pop up, my books will pop up, my social media will pop up. You find me anywhere on social media. If you don't find me on the internet, probably you don't have internet, but I hope that you also add some links in the show notes. That being said, it was such a pleasure to be with you, such an honor to be with you, my friend. I love and adore you and respect you for everything you do. I'm especially excited about this podcast because you cater an audience that makes our work happen. Every single day, I thank all the meeting professionals. I thank all the hospitality partners. I thank all the bureau owners that we have. Even the, let's say the pilots and the flight attendants and everybody in the hotels.
And the AV crew,
The AV team, right? That we can do what we can do. I call them the heroes behind the scenes. We are just lucky that we get the spotlight on stage. I am incredibly grateful that you put the spotlight on them.
Sylvie, thank you so much. Well, that does it, ladies and gentlemen. That's a wrap for today's episode on the Amputate Fear, Amplify Life podcast. I want to thank my guest, Sylvie di Guisto, for gracing us with her insights and inspiration and taking us on a transformational journey by helping us amputate fear and amplify life. It's about converting them into your greatest successes. We again thank Inspired Communications International for sponsoring this show. Inspired Communications International, where the show business leaders how to hurdle adversity, amputate fear, embrace a new normal mindset to win the medals in their life. Continue your journey of transformation by following me online at johnregister.com, as well as a button to have a conversation with me about how I might be able to support the transformation in your organization as possibly a keynote speaker or breakout session, fireside chat guide, deep dive leadership expert, or whatever you want. We can talk about it. Together, we can amputate fear and embrace a new normal mindset, winning life's medals along the way. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, and share this podcast with the bestest and most dearest colleagues that you have, and keep amplifying your life. Until next time, stay inspired. Bye for now.